You fought hard and played a good game, but you haven't felt like yourself since. You try to hide it, you try to ignore it, but something doesn't feel quite right, and in fact, it's getting worse. Every 5 in 10 concussions go unreported and undetected. 2 in 10 high school athletes who play contact sports will suffer a concussion this year. While most of the focus and attention on concussions tends to be in football, statistics show that other contact sports, such as soccer and lacrosse, are seeing an increase in incidence of concussion.
Youth sports is really where a lot of activity begins. We as parents, we as coaches, we as administrators really need to take the responsibility of raising the awareness of concussions and its potential impact on the growth and development of children.
Concussion is a transient neurological condition resulting from trauma to the head or body that results in temporary neurological symptoms that typically resolve with appropriate treatment, rehab, and time.
Concussion awareness can only be a good thing. Many years ago, a few decades ago, I don't think there was a conversation being had about concussions and some of the long-term effects. Really what we want is to have informed decisions for parents, for players, for participants and coaches and volunteers to really know what some of those long-term effects could be down the road for those that play sports.
Experts say that the total number of reported concussions in the United States has doubled in the last 10 years. An estimated 5 to 10% of athletes will sustain a concussion during a sports season, and it is vital that coaches, parents, and athletes are able to recognize a head injury when it occurs.
It's important for parents to remember that, and for coaches to remember that too, that everyone's going to get a trophy at the end of the season, even though the kids keep score, of the wins and the losses. But at the end of the day, that's not what this is about. This is about keeping our kids healthy and teaching that love of the game. The more we talk about it, I think the more it takes the stigma, off of an injury like that. When you think about it, a kid gets a sprained ankle, no one thinks twice about icing it. We physically see it, it turns up black and blue. With a concussion, we don't have that. And so I think a lot of people think it's not as important or not as damaging as something that you could physically see. And I think the more we talk about it, the more parents, the more athletes recognize that it's a legitimate injury and it needs to be treated as such.
While one concussion can be problematic, returning to play before a concussion has completely resolved can lead to a prolonged recovery and a higher severity of injury.
My youngest son has had a concussion. He had it his freshman year. He's a senior now, so it was definitely scary. He was playing football, so it was during practice actually. He knew the hit was different and he could feel it. The first thing he did was grab his head, and then he just kind of sat there dazed. Then the trainers came out to the field. He got up. He wasn't, falling down or anything. He was still clearly knew what was going on. Then he got very emotional. And then from there, they took him to the training room. They did all their tests on him. They sat him out for an entire week. I definitely think parents need to realize that there's risk out there.
Any injury that results in trauma to the head that causes neurological symptoms, causes headache, dizziness, visual problems, difficulty thinking or concentrating, remembering, any symptom should be suspected as having a concussion. One of the biggest myths in concussion is that the athlete has to get knocked out in order to have a concussion. In reality, only 10% of people that sustain a concussion have loss of consciousness.
There's a heavy focus on concussion awareness and concussion prevention. So I think right now we're in a good place and only improving. It's our responsibility as adults, as parents, as the coaches, to not only make the children aware of this, but if something happens, I always say, when in doubt, sit them out. If you're not sure, sit them out. I think it's important everyone takes it personal, even the kids themselves. If they see a friend acting a little funny or something like that, bring it to someone's attention. Don't just let it go.
We don't feel like anyone should return to playing sports until they're completely asymptomatic. All of the symptoms that were the result of their concussion have resolved. And we believe that you should objectively measure neurologic function. And we measure visual function, we measure balance function, and we measure cognitive function, and try to ensure that the brain's function in those capacities have returned to normal.
In an effort to bring this issue out of the shadows, increase awareness of concussions, and promote a safer and healthier experience for young athletes, several Arizona agencies and organizations have partnered to better educate coaches, players and parents on recognizing and treating concussions. Concussions can happen to anyone. Recognize the symptoms, seek medical treatment, and take time to recover. Remember, the outcome of the athlete is more important than the outcome of the game. To find out more information about concussions, please visit this website. To make an appointment at the Banner Concussion Center, call 602-839-7285.